Welcome everyone to the channel where we unravel the world of finance. A major event is stirring in the global monetary markets, and two names have suddenly burst onto the scene: the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong. Whispers are growing louder, screens are flashing red and green, and some insiders are claiming that by tomorrow the rates could explode. You heard that right. Analysts, traders, and everyday currency watchers are all asking the same question. Could this be it? Now, before you dismiss this as just another internet rumor, stick with me. Today, we're cutting through the noise to decode what's really happening behind the scenes. We'll uncover whether this so-called currency explosion could actually happen, and if so, how you can prepare. Welcome to the Currency Corner, where we break down what's moving the markets, who's pulling the strings, and where the next big opportunity might strike. I'm your host, and tonight, we are diving deep into the Dinar and the Dong to see what the next 24 hours could hold for these two fascinating currencies. Tonight's update carries an electric undercurrent. Something is brewing in the East as the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong, two currencies often overlooked by the mainstream, have suddenly roared back into the conversation. Forums, headlines, and private groups are buzzing with a single question. Could this be the moment these currencies rewrite history? Let's start with the Vietnamese Dong. The official rate currently hovers around 23,600 per US dollar. On the surface, it seems stable, controlled, almost flat. But beneath that calm exterior, the Dong is quietly battling powerful global forces. Vietnam's central bank is walking a razor's edge. Their mission is to keep exports cheap enough to compete globally while also keeping domestic prices under control. That is no easy balancing act. Over the past few months, the Dong has shown a subtle but consistent weakness. To the untrained eye, it's just a rounding error. But to currency experts, it's a signal. It suggests the central bank might be preparing for something significant, perhaps widening the trading band, small devaluation, or a strategic move to give Vietnam fresh leverage in global trade. So why does this matter? Vietnam is an Asian manufacturing superpower, a magnet for factories looking for an alternative to China. Vietnamese exports, from clothing to tech components, fuel the country's economic engine. But as the US dollar strengthens and global demand slows, Vietnam's competitiveness faces serious headwinds. When the dollar gets stronger, foreign consumers have to pay more for Vietnamese goods. Because of this, some analysts believe the central bank might let the Dong breathe, a little allowing a slight decline in value to make exports more affordable and keep the factories humming. It's a delicate dance. Devalue too much, and inflation could soar. Too little, and Vietnam risks losing ground to competitors like Thailand or Indonesia. Despite these challenges, Vietnam remains one of Southeast Asia's most resilient economies. Its GDP growth continues to outpace its regional peers. Foreign investment remains strong, and the government is committed to economic reform. In fact, some insiders say Vietnam is steadily laying the groundwork for a more open, globalized economy, a move that could pave the way for a gradual appreciation of the Dong once global economic pressures ease. So while speculation swirls about a sudden revaluation, the real story might be a slower, more strategic shift. Now, let's turn our attention to Iraq, where the dinar trades at around 1,310 per US dollar. To most investors, it's just another managed currency from the Middle East. But to millions of people worldwide, from revaluation believers to geopolitical analysts, the dinar represents something more: potential, a relic of the past, and one of the most misunderstood currencies on the planet. The Iraqi dinar doesn't trade freely on major forex markets. Its value is tightly managed by the Central Bank of Iraq, or CBI. Why? Because Iraq's monetary policy is heavily influenced by oil revenues, regional politics, and its dollar reserves. This structure creates both stability and intense speculation. A single statement from the CBI, a new policy directive, or a surge in oil revenues can trigger waves of rumors and predictions. But here's the reality. In 2024, Iraq has been quietly making extraordinary progress. It has tightened controls on dollar outflows, reformed its banking compliance, and expanded digital payment systems to combat illicit trade. At the same time, strong oil exports have refilled the CBI's reserves to a level of strength not seen in years. These changes have reignited rumors that Iraq might adjust the value of its currency. Not a wild, overnight revaluation, but a deliberate, calculated move to restore domestic purchasing power and international confidence. The memory of the dinar's past value, which peaked at over $3 before the Gulf War, remains a potent symbol of national pride. While few expect a return to that level overnight, a controlled, incremental appreciation isn't out of the question, especially with the IMF and the U.S. Treasury coordinating supervision. The reality is, even a small upward adjustment could send a tsunami of optimism through Iraq and the global investment community. The stories of the Dong and the Dinar are part of a larger global monetary rebalancing, shift away from decades of U.S. dollar dominance toward a more multipolar world. Emerging economies are demanding a bigger voice, and nations like Vietnam and Iraq are now seen as crucial players on the global financial chessboard. The Dong and Dinar have polarized communities, dreamers versus skeptics, gamblers versus realists, but perhaps both sides hold a piece of the truth. The dreamers remind us that belief in transformation can move mountains. The realists remind us that real change requires time, reform, and resolve. When those two forces meet, hope backed by policy and conviction bolstered by economics, that's when revolutions happen. And make no mistake, monetary revolutions don't always start in Washington or London. They often begin quietly in places like Hanoi, where engineers are building the next generation of manufacturing power. Or in Baghdad, where oil and ambition are fueling a nation's comeback story. Oh! So tonight, whether you hold Dong or Dinar, or are simply watching from the sidelines, remember this: you are witnessing history in slow motion. The numbers on the screen are just the surface. Beneath them lies a story of nations reimagining themselves, of economies emerging from adversity, and of currencies preparing to claim their place in a changing world. Stay focused, stay informed, and most importantly, stay prepared for the possibility that the quietest currencies often make the loudest moves. Because every explosion begins with a quiet hum, and every storm starts with still air. Thank you for joining me on the Currency Corner. If you found this analysis helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. We'll see you next time.